Islam Makhachev's coach Javier Mendez comments on Kamaru Usman's win over Buckley and shares thoughts on the possibility of him fighting Islam next. It's likely that the former welterweight champion had given some thought to what his next moves in the UFC would look like in case of a victory after 3 losses in a row and inactivity. Even before the clash with Buckley, Kamaru was dropping hints that he had ambitions to first reclaim the welterweight belt and then move up to face the middleweight champion. After his last performance, in which he proved there's still some considerable amount of gas in his tank and his days of championship battles aren't over, Usman immediately announced that he's looking to face the winner of JDM versus Islam next. His argument as to why should the company choose to go with that option as opposed to alternative options had to do with his belief that he's the biggest name in the division, so putting him in the next title fight would be the correct choice in a commercial sense. Islam's coach doesn't disagree.
You know, he looked like he's almost his old self again. The jab was on point. You know, when I watched, I go, damn, I just forgot what a great jab that guy had. And he also proved to everybody what a great wrestler he is, too, and how he can use his intelligence to win fights easier than to make it more exciting. You know, he proved that point by the way he went out and he attacked his opponent. Very impressive.
Do you believe that he's put himself in a position to potentially fight for the belt next?
Possible. It depends what the UFC thinks. I mean, I think Shavkat needs to be considered. Also, Ian Gary, you know, Bilal Muhammad also too, if maybe he wants to be back in the picture. Let's see what they want to do. But I mean, there's so much that can happen. He's just right. He's right in line with JDM, 100%. You know, him and, you know, I think that all those guys are really trouble for everybody. Shavkat himself, Ian Gary, you know, there's so many guys in that division that Islam hasn't fought either. So it's one of those exciting things to be in, but, you know, we need to get by JDM first, you know.
Eric Nixick provides an update on Francis Ngannou and the possibility of his return to the UFC. He also spoke about the relationship with Sean Strickland following their fallout over Eric's comments after Strickland's last loss. Speculation about the former UFC heavyweight champion coming back to the promotion to inject some life into the division while Jones and the Brass keep the title hostage, with Aspinall complaining from a distance as his athletic prime gets wasted due to inactivity, became somewhat widespread after Jones floated the idea of fighting Francis instead of Tom. Ngannou was open to the idea in his response, and all of this raised more questions than it answered. Eric also shared some details about the Strickland situation, unsure whether or not he will still be in his corner in the next outing. Among discussed topics, the question of Sean's next opponent came up.
I think the heavyweight division's in a tough place right now. It really is. And that's just me and Dan Tom talking about what can revitalize this division that needs some help. You know, then there's some options out there. I don't know Francis's contract deal with the PFL. I don't know any of that stuff. That's just me and you just chopping it up, bro. And I'm telling you how I, perceive it and how I see it. And if that option's always available, Francis is a businessman. That's all I know. Sean and I are fine. Looking back on it, maybe my timing or some of my wording was not right, but my heart was in the right place, man. Like, I want him to be great because I know what he's capable of. You know, he's back to sparring. He's doing everything as normal, but I know he was dealing with the nose injury. That took a little while. So he was hoping to maybe get booked for July or August. That was kind of the talks, but because of the nose, it backed him up a little bit. So I'm looking probably September for him.
Are you going to corner him in September?
We're not even thinking about that right now. Like, I'm open to that. But that's up to him. I'm open for it if he is, and then we just kind of have to smooth out some other stuff. But the Izzy fight's always going to make sense because I'm sure Izzy wants that fight back as well. So that rematch will make sense.
Ray Longo is still happy about the fact that his fighter was able to ruin UFC's vision of the bantamweight division, taking out 2 of their most valued assets in the weight class. Merab's coach had talked about UFC's handling of Merab's career before the fight with Khabib's cousin in days before the fight took place. He made it clear that everyone in their team felt like UFC was trying to get rid of Merab as a champion, as they were showing favoritism towards Umar, who they obviously viewed as a potential star, with his last name contributing to this factor significantly. A good amount of pressure was put on the Georgian champion back then to take the fight under circumstances that favored Umar at the time. And of course, it's no secret what he had to go through to get his first title shot anyway. Interestingly, it seems the company hasn't really fixed the relationship with Merab and his team, even as he solidified his position as a dominant champion and number 2 pound-for-pound fighter. In a recent interview, his head coach accused UFC of trying to kill Merab, something that backfired pretty hard on them.
I mean, they tried to kill him, and that's the difference in this fight. They tried to kill him with look at his resume. and he just get more confident. But Merab, he's thinking. He is a little more cerebral than you think. Not like cerebral like in the details, but cerebral in thinking about the fight, and, what it means and all that stuff. But it didn't kill him, and now they got a problem. Whereas the other guy, stupid talented guy. I'm not knocking him off. Look, I could watch that guy hit pads every day. Right. You know what I mean? But when you're gifted shit the way he was, and you start to believe in it, and then you really have to fight somebody, it's a major problem. And now what do? You're going to correct that in a couple of months, or you think you're going to bring Israel out of Sonya? Not to knock to Israel, but you're starting to do things that appear to make you look better, but they're not doing anything. There was an easy recipe for him. I don't know if they followed it, but that's the issue. I think that he was given certain things that just, they're not making you better. They might be making people money, but are you growing as a fighter?
Aljamain Sterling wants to fight Brian Ortega next and reveals he's been actively trying to get the UFC to get him back into the octagon. Funkmaster's body of work at featherweight has been quite interesting. After the loss suffered to Sean O'Malley by a knockout, which took away his title, pushed him to move up to the weight class above, Aljo has had 2 fights in the new weight class. His debut was successful, putting Calvin Kattar's name on his resume. In his next one, the former bantamweight champ faced the undefeated Movsar Evloev, who represents a stylistic nightmare to many in the division. The fight turned out to be a heavy grappling session, and Sterling lost in a closely contested bout. That took place in December, and Sterling's ready for more action. In his latest media appearance, he shared he's been trying to get a fight as soon as possible, and named Brian Ortega as his desired next opponent.
I saw Hunter after the fights, and I told him, like, hey, what's happening right now? Like, I've been asking for a while. But he's like, he knows I had my bachelor party coming up and some other stuff with the wedding. That's cool and all, but I've been waiting and asking since the very beginning, even for the June card. I was like, that would be dope for me and Merab to get on the same card.
Yeah, Newark.
That would have been sick. But it didn't happen. And Hunter said he's like, I got you. Just send me the dates of when is inconvenient and when it'd be practical. I'm in great shape right now. I don't want to lose it by just hanging out, working the whole time and doing some other stuff. So I'm in shape. I want to take advantage of this. I'm about to be 36.
Yeah.
I want to get in as many fights in as I can before, the final swan song. In terms of name value that makes sense, that people are going to give a shit about the fight, Brian Ortega. Former title challenger a couple times. I know he's the same thing. Like, he was in bad headspaces with certain fights. And I think we've seen that with him, where he's had some really bad performances, and then he'll come back after taking some time off, and then Brian comes back and looks like a freaking world beater.